Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Institute of Hospitality Continuing Professional Development webinar this afternoon. And may I take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy new year. So good afternoon, my name's Sam. I'm the Head of Professional Development here at the Institute of Hospitality, and I'm joined by an expert panel to talk about our subject, which is delivering a successful HR strategy in hospitality, and we'll introduce the panel to you very shortly. But before we start, just a few housekeeping items to run through with you. We do want to make this as interactive as possible, so please do ask some questions to the panel. We'll get them working as hard as we can this afternoon for you. If you'd like to ask a question, please type that into your question facility on your screen, and then we'll get to as many of those as we can towards the end of our time together today. We'll aim to finish within the hour, so just planning for an hour today. And remember, you can use this next hour towards your CPD hours as part of your professional development, and you can register that within your IoH members dashboard. Also, today's webinar is being filmed and it'll be placed on our on-demand platform on the Institute's website, so you can go back and watch it at any time you like. So without further ado, let's introduce our panel. Would like each panel member just to introduce themselves, where they work, what they do, and also to tell us why they said I'm in to the Institute of Hospitality. So just going around my screen as it sees. I'll start with you first, Andrew. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name's Andrew Peacham and I work for HIT Training. So my job title's a training and development specialist. Now, ultimately what that involves is I have to design curriculum and plan curriculum to be delivered to apprentices, and those apprentices are largely on management programs. So essentially most of my delivery is on management and leadership, but we also deliver some HR support, and I'm responsible for the design and delivery of that curriculum. So yeah, I'm really into the Institute of Hospitality because ultimately the company that I work for, primarily we have learners or apprentices in the hospitality industry, and they're on hospitality apprenticeships. So I deliver to a lot of hospitality managers ultimately. So in terms of the kind of HR side of things, then I think I've got a real feel for some of the kind of challenges, I suppose, in terms of retention in the industry at the moment, and hopefully I can give a bit of a flavour of that today. So that's me. Nice to see everyone.
Brilliant.
Everyone. Brilliant. Nice to kind of meet everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. And Tracy, if I could come to you next, please.
Hi, thanks, Sam and Andrew. My name's Tracy. I'm the Associate HR Director for Marriott Hotels International here in the UK. Currently, we have a team of 10 covering 6 hotels in the UK. It's a brand new team, and actually we're actively recruiting for one newly created role. Very exciting time to join Marriott in UK, and that is for the talent coordinator in our talent acquisition role. What's my involvement with IoH, and I'm in. So I think last year, Sam will back me up. So last year, we have successfully signed up 26 new members with our IoH I'm in program. And this is across all of our hotel management and our regional team. So again, it's a big step forward in supporting our HR strategy. And also recently, I have been invited to join the Passion for Hospitality Career Fair, where I was having the privilege to co-facilitate an interviewing workshop, where I had this one-to-one and really real-time coaching advice given to our young talents and graduates participating on those events. So amazing experience. That's from me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tracy. And we'll come on to a little bit about the roles within the HR team later on, because it's very interesting. So thank you, Tracy. And Agnieszka, if I could come to you next, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Agnieszka Rydzik. I'm an associate professor at the University of Lincoln, I do research on working conditions in tourism and hospitality. I have done research with migrant workers, lower skilled workers, specifically young workers. And my recent project is about students who work in hospitality workplaces where I study. Here at Lincoln, in my department of marketing, languages and tourism, we joined the Institute of Hospitality recently. So all our students have become members, and we're really excited about them joining IoH, and hopefully some of them have joined the webinar today as well. And we are working together with the Institute of Hospitality on a very exciting initiative called the Good Student Employer Charter. And I'm hoping to tell you a little bit more about students working in hospitality and also the charter today.
Brilliant, lovely. Thank you, Agnieszka. On to today's subject, which is delivering a successful HR strategy. And the key quite often to a successful strategy is to identify what unifies and motivates employees and to develop a strategic plan around that understanding. We ask, how does this apply to hospitality? And as we start 2024, what can we do to make a difference this year? You can improve your HR in hospitality by hiring employees who believe in the company mission, because when they see that in their own values align with the company's, they tend to do a great job. This is especially important in customer-facing roles, which, as we know, are very frequent in the hospitality industry. So, Tracy, I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind. What is, first of all, HR? We say HR like everybody knows it, but
Yes.
lots of employers are now calling this. Well, we were just having a little conversation before we started. Used to be known as the personnel department. It was like a scary office in a back cupboard somewhere. But now, you know, it's people and culture, it's people teams, just very, very over, you know, and some people probably think that all your job is hiring, firing and payroll. So what is HR, if you wouldn't mind telling us?
Yes. Sam, you know, you just took my lines, you know, that's what I'm
Sorry.
about to say. But anyway, so I come from, comparing to Agnieszka and Andrew, I come from the hotel background. So I'm going to share with you as an operator, what is our understanding of HR, human resources. Whether you call it as a people and culture or people team, I think our primary role, in my understanding, is all about the people business partner. So we are the business partner to support the business goals, you know, from all different angles. When the business wanted to achieve, you know, what is their target, what's their P&L, you know, on quarterly, on yearly, whatever that financial figures, then vision and missions, yeah, on top of that, HR is here to making sure that from the people perspective, you know, what is our basic in terms of, you know, whether you call it a head account, in terms of our budget, how do we track and appeal to the market as a strong employer branding, and to have that to attract the right talent into the business? That's the step one. Once they join our business, and what can we do to retain them, and not only to retain, but to further people develop them to the best version they can be, so that it can grow and change within our own business. That's the ultimate goal. Of course, we all want it to be like that. So as a people partner, you know, we do not just want, like, you know, old cliche, oh, we fire and hiring, or we just pay people. That's a really just transactional service that we still do, but in a much more updated, upgraded way, you know, digitalized system. Hence why, if you want me to elaborate later in terms of our structures, we do have a very robust vision in 2024. It's already embedded in what we do. So I give you more greater depths about how our HR team is going to move forward in 2024. But in a nutshell, if you ask me what's HR, it's people business partner.
Perfect, brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you,
Right.
Thank you, Tracy. And Andrew, if I could come to you next, talk a little about some of the. You obviously deal with lots of different people working in hospitality and in this HR people world. What are some of the main challenges that people are facing at the moment in the sector?
Well, I think it does come back, you know, I think it's quite well known and kind of publicised really in terms of, I think challenges in terms of recruitment, you know, clearly in terms of things like, you know, skill shortages across the sector. So I think recruitment is a challenge. And I don't think that's just necessarily something that is local or regional. You know, clearly there's disparity between certain sort of regions, but I think that is a national issue actually in terms of skill shortage. So recruitment is one key factor that's coming out. And I think another thing is about retention. So, you know, I think what this links to really is just picking up on a term that Tracy said then about this idea of transaction and being transactional. I think there is a kind of a bit of a feeling out there that almost like the kind of relationship, I suppose, is there is an element of the transactional in there, where, you know, ultimately if people are able to potentially get more money elsewhere, then that relationship is possibly a bit more transactional than maybe it has been in the past, you know, because clearly if we've got skill shortages and issues in terms of labour supply, then that has an impact upon wage, you know. So I think the key things that come out for me from speaking to lots of hospitality managers, you know, is ultimately this, it's a recruitment, the ability to actually recruit, but then retaining as well. So those are the two key elements I think that are coming out when I'm kind of discussing, you know, some of the current things that are going on for people actually managing in hospitality.
Yeah, yeah. I'd also add it's probably not just a UK wide. I think it's internationally. You know, when we're speaking to our members internationally as well, it is it's a global problem that, you know, and I don't necessarily whether it's a skills problem, because there's enough people out there that are being able to upskill. I think it's probably just a labour shortage for the amount of vacancies, jobs, the growth of the sector as well that we're seeing. So yeah, supply and demand, I guess, is always a,
well, that's where it comes down
basic
to
economics.
supply and demand, and ultimately the impact upon price, you know, and obviously in the labour market, the price is the wage. So I think this is where it links to some of those things about that kind of transactional side of things, you know, in terms of actually, in terms of, you know, retaining talent, and, you know, because we want, in terms of HR, you clearly, you know, recruitment's one aspect, but you want to focus upon, well, how do we retain and develop? And you know, so this is a kind of key thing to it. But when we potentially have more of that kind of transactional side of things, where if I can move on for more money, I may do that, then
the compensation welfare does place.
Agnieszka, you go.
I just want to add to some of the challenges. So obviously thinking more about kind of smaller towns or small cities, non-metropolitan area, the hospitality sector has really been affected by Brexit, by COVID, by cost of living crisis, and we are seeing more and more small businesses closing, which is such a shame, because they play such an important role in local communities. Not only by creating the connected for socializing, but also for, you know, providing livelihoods for so many workers. And I think that's one of the challenges. How do we sustain the industry and help it grow and recruit talent, retain talent, but also contribute to the local community, because it plays such an important role particularly in small places. And the second challenge I wanted to mention, that one of the things that is kind of beautiful about hospitality workplaces, but also challenging for HR department, is that they attract such a diverse pool of workers. So we've got from across if we think about the different workplaces, there are individuals or in very highly paid, highly skilled roles, in kind of middle roles, but also lower skilled roles, which still require a lot of skills and a lot of you know, effort and transferable skills. And we have such diverse worker groups as well. So, you know, traditionally hospitality has always attracted international talent, migrant workers, but also a lot of young workers. And we also have different contracts. We have a lot of workers working on zero contracts. So one of the challenges, how do we kind of work with different groups of workers to maximize the potential, help them develop, a lot of young people have their first ever jobs in hospitality. So that's really challenging for employers because you have thousands of young workers, young people entering those jobs at different stages. And they're often their first ever job. So, you know, it's a huge responsibility, and if you think about it, for employers to develop them, to take care of them, because they need to learn how to navigate. So often this societal role of hospitality workplaces, I think, is underappreciated. They do play such an important role of introducing different workers to the world of work, developing them. Even if they later on, like students, for example, move on to work in other sectors, they still dedicate quite a few years to developing their transferable skills, customer service skills in hospitality. So I think it's quite a beautiful sector in terms of that role of, you know, introducing so many workers to the world of work, to helping them develop, but also it's quite a challenge because of that diversity of contracts, roles, and individuals coming in.
Yeah. So quite a huge set of challenges there that faces you and your team, I guess, Tracy, in operational HR. So how would you go about writing a HR strategy from scratch? You know, what have you, you know, you're fairly new into the business and fairly new into your role as a UK wide HR head of HR. How do you go about putting that strategy together? What's your plan ultimately? What do you do really?
Yes, I think sometimes, you know, the big project, like you're saying, where do we start? You know, I think if we break all these big pieces into smaller different sections, I think, you know, Andrew, it reminds me that in the training world, we used to do the training needs analysis, right? So I would like to use that the same approach as, you know, last year, 2023 in Q3, Q4, quarter three, quarter four. I think when we're trying to see, you know, what are we going to do if we wanted to be the employer? We have a long way to go there. The employer for hospitality, for people to select. What is the need that we need to understand where we are at? What can we do to better ourselves to be on par and exceeding? So that needs analysis is where I think working with a head office in Spain, you know, where we have we need HR team efficiency and an effectiveness. And we need to making sure we are upscaling, like you say, our own team, and to be specialized at delivering where the needs are. Now, what are the needs? Andrew and Agnieszka, I think you just said are very loud and clear. It's a diverse team. It's a talent war. The needs are talent attraction, the right talent, and talent learning development. No doubt about it. These are the two things, we're making sure that we keep people to retain, to further develop, and they change and grow with the business. So this is the two major needs that we have identified to build our strategy in 2024. So talent retention is still the main key, but we just given a twist in a much more robust approach and focused approach. So in a real practice, I want to give you some, is this a section for me to say, Sam? I'll just carry on talk about it. Good. So what I wanted to give you a much more specific idea on what we have done is, you know, talking about the robust approach on talent acquisition and development. So we used to have this team, which is the UK North and UK South. So two teams within a country, where you can imagine some of times, you know, advisor team or coordinator, they might do things overlapping, but they just rarely talk to each other. So the efficiency is never there. Job will be done, but you might doing two people doing the same job, which is not necessarily efficient enough. So what we have done is to merge these North and South together and step into a united front as a UK HR team. That's the first approach. Okay, and we redesign a job description and where we identify the three major areas. So that's three major areas. It's one about talent branding and acquisition. So we're not just recruit, we also need to really enhance our team, our company, our branding, that into the business. So a lot of need to go out to the university, go to those road shows and sell our brand as a brand for the young graduate students to know there's a career. It's not just a pocket money, the weekend job. There's a career to be developed as a GM, as a manager, to be in future, in the short future. And it's such a diverse opportunity within UK and internationally where you can go, you can transfer, you can promote it into. You know, we've got companies more than 400 hotels, you know, across 45 countries in the world. You can explore. So that is the talent acquisition. So once they are on board, obviously you need a learning and talent development. This is the second major area. So we also get the head of that function. Actually, I think I've got my talent acquisition, talent development manager on this call as well. Agnia just saying hi. She's also on the call. And lastly, to make the team more efficient, yeah, we've got the administration team. So what do? They will be purely focusing on offers and contracts, onboarding process, letter drafting, and payroll process. So these are really the time consuming, you know, Andrew, I know you're nodding your head, but these are the transactional area where time consuming, you know.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Tracy. It's those transactional elements, isn't it? Those kind of things where when you think back to those, I don't know, traditions of HR, which stemmed back to personnel, the transaction, you know, the payroll, the actual. Whereas now, I think, and bringing in these terms, is it more, you know, when you were talking about talent acquisition, learning and development, is that more about transformation? I suppose this is what we're, so when you look at these branches of HR, you can almost say, well, that's transaction, and it's still necessary. But I think where this evolution has taken place a little bit is to hand more of the transaction over to maybe line managers and actually say, well, you do more of the transaction. In HR, we will do more of the
work out more people. Yes, the transformation part, as you're saying, but this is important. We need to free our hands with a specialist. We used to have the generalist all the time, but now sometimes generalist is really burning out job because you're doing everything every day. So now having a specialist in each function that they will be able to free hands for development manager, for acquisition manager, really focusing their field and to go deeper and wider. They can build their own collaborators to make their program moving forward. So let me just add a little bit more. Strategy is strategy. You know, we need the tools and flat platform to make it happen. Okay, if that's what we wanted to do. So well, the development team really, you know, has making together with the leadership team, we have created 2 programs. And in Melia, we call this VIP. VIP stands for very inspiring people. That's our interpretations. So our VIP program, not only designed for senior management, which is about the 6 to 9 months learning development program for them to go through, new managers or just new to the brand. So they are on a monthly basis to skill up. However, I wanted to add it because in my previous company and on many occasions before, there's one element always been forgotten. It's the program for supervisors. Okay, you know, the team leader and supervisors is going to be always their first leadership role, step up from the team member level. So we have now this VIP program for supervisors where give them the qualification and the skills and the platform for them to networking within the company. So it's all about the boost the confidence and competence at the same time. So these 2 very new programs, I'm not saying we have completed yet. It was literally launched the quarter four last year. We're just in the middle of it, but we're very proud we made it happen. To measure the success, we will see how it goes in 2024, but definitely this is the way going forward.
Tracy, thank you so much. It's a really good insight into the operational view of HR, and I think lots of our callers, and especially students who are looking at this, studying our industry, to understand the complexity. You know, it's not just one department; it's an umbrella term used for many other functions that are going on in there, and you know, everybody working, you know, passing them down the line, if you like, from one team to the next in that HR process is a really valuable insight. So So thank
I
you
just
for
want
that.
to add one more.
Oh, go for it. Go on.
Literally one more. We all saying about we are there to train and educate. There's a huge role for HR to train and educate our leadership team and a management team. However, we're also thinking about for our own HR team. So on the quarterly basis, we have our own skill up sessions to train our own HR advisors and managers so that they will be able to, and plus coordinators, so they will be able to understand their own career paths, because if they are happy, you can imagine the service level will be completely different.
Yeah.
So that's again training and investment back in people. This is where we really want to lay our eyes on this year.
Excellent. And that, that's music to our ears here at the Institute, 'cause we're all about professional development, and and it's important to invest in the people that are developing the other people, isn't it? So your trainers, your experts need to be continuously up to date with the latest information, so they are passionate and up to date, and passing on that knowledge as to everybody else is really important. So speaking about training development, Andrew, it seems rude not to pick up a little bit more about what you do at HIT training and apprenticeships and management leadership programs and stuff. And that's a great way of retaining that talent that we was talking about earlier, isn't it? It's having that expertise from outside.
Absolutely. So, we offer apprenticeships at the moment from levels 2 to 5. So, a whole range of hospitality focused apprenticeships, chef apprenticeships and so on. But we also have, more, I suppose, what we class as generic management and leadership training. So Tracy, you were just talking about team leader supervisor. So we offer that. Operations departmental manager, and specialist, hospitality team member, hospitality manager. So a whole range of apprenticeships from 2 to 5. But I think the crucial element to this really is thinking about this stuff in terms of hospitality careers. It's seeing that progression route. I think it's absolutely crucial, and ultimately raising awareness that there is a progression route. And it doesn't just stop at level 5. You can then look on to possibly going on to level 6 in terms of higher level study. And I'm sure Agnieszka could come in on some of that as well. But ultimately, I think this is really, it's a couple of things. It's about looking at progression, seeing there are progression opportunities within the industry. But I think as an internal kind of HR strategy, I suppose, it's focusing on, well, where do you have underused talent? Where have you got talent within the organization already, rather than, I don't need to go externally and look for the talent if it's already within. So it's taking that talent and going, well, what can we do in terms of developing that talent? And, how can we ultimately enrich these jobs? So it's ultimately thinking about that longer term workforce planning, I suppose. And obviously, apprenticeships will form a significant aspect to that, given that, there's the opportunity in terms of levy funding, if you've a certain organisation of a certain size, but even for smaller organisations, the government will fund so much of these apprenticeship training. So, it's a really kind of, not only financially, but organisationally, I think apprenticeships are a fantastic opportunity for hospitality businesses.
Yes.
I teach apprentices all the time. It's what I do every day of the week. So I think, I can't sell the benefits enough of apprenticeships, to be honest, So I do think it links apprenticeships and underused talent within the organisation and development, really.
Yes. I think Andrew and we're going to be the best friend after this.
I'm sure we could become best friends, Tracy. We can talk for hours about apprenticeship, which I'll gladly do.
So Andrew, can I go a little bit like we do with Tracy, when a little bit deeper into that, into apprenticeship? So, I've got I'm a hotelier. I've got I'm somebody like Tracy. I've got a team of people, but I've got this group of, we talked about supervisors earlier. A group of supervisors, they're quite often, it's their first managerial role, first time they're actually looking after people, looking after a diverse team. Some older, some younger than them. They've been promoted into that role.
Yeah.
And lots of people then leave at that point in the industry because the pressure is too much. They're not trained, They feel quite isolated. They get pressure from below and above, and they have to manage all of that situation.
Yeah.
If they're on an apprenticeship development training program with HIT training or any other apprenticeship,
Yeah.
what sort of thing will they be learning? What are they learning about on their apprenticeships? What subjects are they covering?
Yeah, so for example, if we said somebody in a team leader supervisor, so really what we look at is some of the kind of key elements, I suppose, of management and leadership. So we look at things like leadership styles and so on. We look at things like building a high performing team, it's called, which looks at team motivation. We look at motivation, we look at emotional intelligence. There's so many different interesting elements to a management program. We look at finance, and I think the key thing to this really is that you come into an apprenticeship, particularly at a team leader supervisor level, and it's anticipated that you don't at the moment know how to do it. This is the crucial thing. So when we take on an apprentice, we initially do something called a skills scan, and within that skills scan, we really have to identify there's a potential for development. It's expected that you don't know everything. You might have some experience, but an apprenticeship is a development program. So the skills scan is really there to say, well, okay, yeah, you might have X amount of years of experience in hospitality. You may have been a supervisor for a number of years, but the point of the apprenticeship is to really develop those kind of management and leadership skills, and it's very much a developmental program. So most apprenticeships are, most are around about 18 months in duration, and we're not only looking at some of those knowledge elements which I've just talked about, finance, leadership style, all that kind of stuff. We're really looking at developing skill and behavior. Skill is showcasing what you can do. This is what I can do as a manager or leader. Behavior, well, that's the way I do it. So when we look at an apprenticeship, this holistic piece is basically the development of knowledge, skills, and behaviors. And after this 18-month program, ultimately we want people to be effective in terms of their role as team leaders or supervisors. Now, clearly, whether that's in hospitality or any industry, we don't just deliver to hospitality people, but ultimately it's, I think, the apprenticeship is a really, it's a brilliant way of developing people, to be honest. But what it does require is commitment from the employer. It requires a commitment, and there is a funding rule in apprenticeships where commitment of 20% of the apprentice's time should be focused on their studies, and that dual commitment is absolutely crucial. So the employer needs to commit. It's a tripartite agreement, so the employer needs to commit, learner needs to commit, and we commit as a training provider. So yeah, I mean, like I say, I can sell the benefits of an apprenticeship, particularly a management and leadership apprenticeship, but that's the kind of key, that's the key things for me, really.
Yeah, that's really good, Andrew, because I think you're absolutely right. It's having that balance between working experience and the academic reasons why we do things as well, and that knowledge, skills, and behaviour is a really good theme that runs throughout all apprenticeships, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's on every single apprenticeship standard, regardless of the type of apprenticeship you do.
Yeah.
And I think it really is good, and it's like I say, it is. I think it's the development of skills and behaviours as much, if not more, than knowledge. Actually, we can talk about leadership styles, but unless you can actually demonstrate that you can adapt leadership style and you can do this in the workplace, then it's no use, is it? I can do it all day long, but that's not going to actually help me manage anybody. So it's
So when we're developing a HR strategy, it's worth considering an apprenticeship strategy within that main HR strategy, isn't it? And you'd agree with that, Tracy?
I highly recommend it. If any organization still has not embedded this apprentice program for supervisor or senior levels, level 5, 6, I think it is a loss. It is, they have to really look into this. I'm not saying we are right, but we finally set it right, and we're very proud of that. So this is something got to be happening. If it's not now, what else we're waiting for? This is how we created a fundamental
Yeah.
piece of that management level in the pipeline. That 18-month program, learning, coaching, feedback, that is the retention, minimum retention at a year and a half. And after that, they want to showcase what they are good at. And if we have a robust system to keep them grow within the company, and imagine the future is really, the sky is the limit. But that's the first program we need to get them into and support it with a big business support from the employer side. I know practically it's easy said, hard to do, but if we're all sharing the same vision and somehow it's workable. We are in the full swing with this program right now, and I just think echoing everything what Andrew said is the best program to go for.
Brilliant. So once we've got them in, and a shameless plug here for the Institute as well. So sitting alongside apprenticeship should be professional recognition and development as well through your professional body. So, I think they sit hand in hand, absolutely, having that professional body sitting alongside your training provider, all the access and resources that the Institute can provide to support you in your learning development talent, I think adds to your HR strategy. So just a shameless plug there for the Institute, but it's our show, so why shouldn't we plug it? But anyway, so Agnieszka, if I come to you now to talk a little bit about the other end of the strategy, about the attraction bit and attracting people into the industry. And I know you've done some research at University of Lincoln over the last few years about, the perceptions of the sector, people's entry-level jobs, whilst they're studying, other degrees and other programs, they quite often end up working in hospitality. And that's, how many times have we spoken to people in industry and said, oh yeah, I wanted to be an engineer, but now I'm a general manager of this hotel because I got a job whilst I was at uni and fell in love with it. So we have a responsibility there to make sure that those jobs that we offer people whilst they're students are the best jobs that they can be. So don't want to steal your thunder, Agnieszka. So if you just tell us a little bit about the research and how that ties in with today's subject, really.
Absolutely. So I would argue that student workers are one of the most underappreciated groups in the industry. So if you think about Lincoln, I'm based in Lincoln, and if you walk around the town, all the restaurants, bars, hotels, they really rely on students to provide all the customer service jobs. And the students work on 0-hour contracts. So I was really interested in, there are students who study all sorts of different degrees, but they need to support themselves while they study. So they see hospitality jobs as really, really attractive because of the flexibility, because of the social aspect of the jobs. They meet new people, they develop transferable skills. So they find these jobs as really, really attractive. They see them as flexible as well. So we have a lot of students, and also because of the cost of living crisis, we have a lot of students having to work because they need to support themselves because the student loans aren't sufficient. So we have a lot of students working in the industry on 0-hour contracts. They often work not just for a year. Some of them work for 3 years, and as Sam said, some of them fall in love with hospitality, go up the ladder and stay in the industry beyond the graduation. Some of them stay whilst developing their freelance careers, or the different trajectories of those young people. But so I was really interested what happened, in what happens when students go to work. What are their experiences? So many students, I've done some interviews, and many students have very positive experience of working in hospitality. So they've developed, particularly, they work for chains, they work for SMEs, they work for a diverse set of companies. And many students have positive experiences, so they develop really great relationships with managers and with their employers. And that seems to be key. The relationship they develop with their employers is essential.
Yeah.
And those who have a good experience have a very meaningful relationship. They don't just treat employment in hospitality as transactional or instrumental as a way of getting money. They actually, if they're valued, if they are trusted, they stay longer, they take extra shifts, they're willing to go the extra mile. However, so that's the good experiences. However, those students who don't have very good experience, they quit a lot, so they change employment a lot. And they really struggle to, because if you think about the fact that often it's their first ever job and they don't really get induction that is meaningful, so they might just shadow someone for a day and then off you go. They might be really young and insecure. So if they are not taken care of at that early stage of their employment, they really lose confidence. They see it more transactional, instrumental, and they leave very soon. So what we've done, what I've done is through the research, we've mapped the key challenges students encounter in hospitality into 8 different challenges or needs students have. And that is around flexibility and scheduling, around developing belonging to the team, because often students are seen differently. They're seen as 0-hour contracts, kind of transient workers come and go, but actually they want to be part of the team. They want to be invited to Christmas dues, and they want to develop, they want to kind of develop, belonging to the brand and to the company. But often they're not given an opportunity because they're seen as very transient. So, talking about issues of retention that we've just talked about and shortages, I would say that this is such an untapped potential. If employers really value their student workers, they do stay longer. They just don't stay during the 3 years of their studies, or 4, which is actually quite a long time because the turnover in hospitality is quite quick. So if you think you can have a worker who stays with you 3-4 years, that's wonderful. And maybe if you offer them development opportunities and kind of that sense of belonging and trust, then they actually consider staying beyond and developing and recommend you to others, to their friends. And I think students in the interviews often talked about not being so appreciated, not being seen as, team members. They see themselves so outside because they just come and go, on shifts in and out, and they have so much to bring and to add to the team. But I think they feel often less value than other workers. So what we've done, we've kind of mapped some of the challenges, and we've developed this framework of good principles in student employment for employers to kind of reflect on how they work with students, because a lot of employers do these things. Sometimes it's about minor tweaks, fixing some misunderstandings, because sometimes it's about students not communicating their needs, and also employers not necessarily communicating their needs either. So a lot of it is around, not sufficient communication. And some of the things are really easy to fix. So what we've done, we've kind of developed this framework, and we've now launched an initiative called the Good Student Employer Charter, which the Institute of Hospitality is a partner with. We launched it in November in Lincolnshire for businesses in hospitality, tourism, events, and so on, who hire students and want to champion best practice, so that they want to improve their relationships with students. They want to, maximize the potential, because they see that, they're hiring a lot of students, and they're not seeing that it necessarily works as it could. So we've launched the charter, and it's open to any business who hires students. They go through a short online training program to learn about the 8 principles we've developed. And then the businesses sign up to some 8 pledges. And we want to create a network of student-friendly businesses that care about those young workers in their first ever jobs, who want them to stay longer, who want them to, carry on with the company, and also recommend the business to others. So what we're trying to do is to kind of work with businesses. We're also working with students, trying to help them, understand the expectations of employers, but also be better at communicating their needs and so on, because I think there are different levels of work that needs to be done. But that's what we've been working on, thinking around, how do we help businesses, particularly local businesses in Lincolnshire, for example, help them address the issues of retention, staff shortages, and development needs, and keep talent in Lincoln. Basically, we want the great students who are here with us. We want them to stay and develop careers here.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Agnieszka. And again, real deep dive into that. So, and I think, as a HR strategy, why would you not embed that, into your business? you know, we said earlier, we all know people that started the industry because they fell into it whilst they was doing something else at uni and wait until they found out like a proper job. And now, you know, so we all have this responsibility, and I think to have that written down, to have the training, and also the employers, it's good for them as an attraction piece, isn't it? To say you've signed up to this charter, you know, come and work for
Yeah.
us. You know, you're going to be looked after. You know, we've signed up to this.
Yes.
You know, if you're a student and you're looking at jobs, you know, and there's 2 jobs there available, one's got the charter and one hasn't. You know, I
One
think you
has
know
the
which one you're going to
pledge.
go.
Yes.
Yeah, one has made the pledge and one hasn't.
Yes.
You know where you're going to go, aren't you? So, yeah, to me, it makes absolute business sense to do that.
Yeah, it's about demonstrating that businesses understand student needs, are willing to have that conversation with students and develop them. Because I think in my interviews, we had a lot of students who went into zero-hour contract jobs in hospitality because they wanted a career. So they would study, for example, tourism and events, and they wanted a career. However, you know, after going into some of the jobs and not having a good experience, they're like, oh no, you know, I really want to have a career in hospitality, but I'm not sure anymore. So what we need to make sure is that, you know, everyone has a good experience, and that they actually don't get discouraged from carrying on, because it's a great industry to work in. There's so many opportunities. But it's really about understanding some of the needs around students and young workers, because they need maybe extra support, you know, in that journey of understanding what work is about. And it's a challenge, particularly for businesses who are, you know, under a lot of pressure as well. So it's not an easy thing. But what we are saying through the charter, that there are some easy kind of fixes that can be done to improve that relationship.
Yeah.
So, Agnieszka, if people who are listening to this want to find out more about the charter, where can they go to get that?
Sure. So you can. We've got a website, project website, which is called hospitality-now.co.uk. You can just Google the Good Student Employer Charter. You can get in touch with me as well, and my email address is A and then RYDZIK, so my surname, and then at lincoln.ac.uk. So I'm happy to have a conversation. I'm happy to also deliver training to employers and to have a conversation with employers who are interested in joining and in understanding kind of student workers better.
Perfect, brilliant. Thank you very much. So, just to call out, if anybody has got any questions, now is a good time to ask them, as we're coming up to about 10 minutes to go. So, before we get to that session, could I just ask each of you just for a piece of advice that you'd like to give to our audience when creating a HR strategy? That might be a book that they should have, like your Bible in HR. It might be a website, a podcast, an association that you'd want to recommend, anything like that. So, Andrew, I can see you nodding away furiously there. So I'll start with you. Got something on the top of your head already?
Well, straight away, if you're really in terms of HR, then within the UK, the standard is the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. So the CIPD, almost said professional instead of personnel then, but it's the CIPD, Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. Really good kind of resources available. You know, it's kind of, it's almost like the established kind of and recognized institute for HR. So take a look at the website, you know, if you want. It's got all sorts of fact sheets, resources, loads of stuff there. So the CIPD was the first one that came to my mind, if you want to kind of get more of a flavour around what the subject or what HR is all about. So that's the first thing that came to my mind, Sam, CIPD.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. Tracy, have you got?
I know I'm the next. I'm just thinking, I have one word. To be honest, my career started into, like we welcome all newcomers into the business. I started in operations, and I experienced the operational side for a good 18 months. So I think this industry really say no to anybody. There is a one cliche, and we value the most in hospitality is you work hard, you play hard. You do need to having that really the attitude into this business is yeah, as I said, yes, I can or can do. You know, you all learn that in universities, back into school. Is there's always a glass half full and half empty. It's how you see the world and how you choose to respond to the situation and every single day. And when you're into the hospitality, you know, you're making your decisions every single day. So eager to learn, willing to learn, fundamental. Actually, I just think about that's a really good one. Fundamental, either from, you know, like Agnieszka from the university or from IoH platforms. You need someone to give you that genuine, I finally got it, a genuine advice to see hospitality as a career. You know, I think this is something is a big life commitment. Is you started here, you will get to certain leadership role, and it's really possible. It's really possible in this industry.
Brilliant. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tracy. Great. That's great. And Agnieszka?
So if you are looking to improve your employment relations with young workers, with students, do sign up to the charter, the Good Student Employer Charter, and get in touch. But I would say, to be seriously, thinking about what is core to the HR strategy. I think at the core should be the workers, and it should be very worker-centric, worker-centered, and it should be really about building, developing meaningful relationships with workers based on trust, based on enabling voice of different workers and recognizing the beauty in having that kind of diverse mix of workers and helping them fulfill their potential. And I think that should be at the core of every HR strategy. I guess that's why it's often nowadays called people. But I think meaningful relationships based on trust, but also enabling voice. So developing channels for workers to have conversations with employers about developing, but about improving, you know, the shared values basically that they have. I think that's core. And based on the research I've done with young students, they really valued good relationships with their employers. When it worked, it was because that relationship worked really well. And often they had, you know, there were small companies who didn't necessarily had big HR departments. It was sometimes done more informally, but the relationships were always key, and also creating safe environment. I think that was also quite important for young people, kind of creating good, safe, friendly environments. So I would say people at the core.
Yeah,
people-centric.
Yeah, I was just going to add into that actually. When you said about shared values, this is something that what I've really picked up from, delivering to hospitality managers, where it does work, where it can be successful, is this idea of shared value. You know, it relates to engagement, you know, building relationships. And I think where it can work really well is almost that recruitment stage as well. You know, it's not just about recruiting for a set of skills, you know, it's about recruiting people with those values that you need. And you can bring in people with the right values. They might have very little skill at all at that stage, but if they've got the right kind of values and the shared value, that's a real good basis for things. And I think where HR strategies are, I suppose, successful is where there is that kind of shared value, that common value. So I just wanted to pick up on what Agnieszka said about shared value, because I thought that was crucial. Actually.
Yes.
Excellent. You know, I can't believe the time has just flown by. It's now nearly five to 2. So it's you know, I think we could sit here all afternoon and chew this over. It's been fascinating. But we do have a couple of comments that have come in. They're not really questions, but they're observations, which is quite good to add in. So to Andrew, to your comments earlier on, attraction, retention, and development is certainly a concern internationally, as well as it is here in the UK. So we're definitely seeing this as a global problem. The next comment there is loving the conversation. That's good to know. Cultivating a culture of growth and excellence requires a focus on feed forward and people's potential for both front of house and heart of house employees. So yeah, you make sure we're always covering all of our departments when we're talking about this subject.
I love, can I just add something? I love people use a heart of a house than just
Yes.
saying the back of a house. So well said, whoever just shared that term. So I totally live and breathe that word.
Yeah, heart of the house. Love that.
Yeah.
And lastly, aligned to considerations for students, I think this is what you was talking about, Agnieszka, is that the same can be said for more mature employees and those in semi-retirement, etc. So maybe stage 2 of your project is to roll this out for the other end of the spectrum.
We are on it, Sam. So
Oh, there you go.
the next project is about older workers, because what we are seeing is that they can bring a lot to the workplaces, isn't it? And there is a company in Lincoln, actually, the Scottos, it's a small local chain, and they have been actively encouraging older workers to join the team and kind of nurturing them because of what they can bring to the workplaces. So yes, on it, next time.
Excellent, cool. Well, we'll have to bring you back and find out more about that. We actually are holding a round table in Kent in February, talking about how we attract mature workers into the hospitality sector, and there'll be a discussion paper that will be published as a result of that as well. So,
Oh, that
yeah,
sounds good.
looks like we'll be doing your research for you, Agnieszka. There we go. You're very welcome.
Brilliant.
So that brings us nicely actually to the close of today. So thank you very much to today's panel, Andrew, Tracy and Agnieszka, who've given up your time to do today, but also in the preparation for today as well. And we can't put these webinars on without you and your expertise and your time. And so, yeah, a heartfelt thank you for joining us today. It means a lot to us, and passing on your wisdom, knowledge, and expertise to our members. So, if we had an audience that could give you a round of applause, we'd give you a round of applause. Just a reminder to everybody else that's listening that you can use this hour as a CPD record. You can add that to your area within the members dashboard. If you're listening in live, you'll receive a CPD certificate, which you can also upload to your evidence file within the dashboard. We do have a few events coming up as well, just to remind you about. In January, we have our next virtual in conversation on Zoom, which will be taking place on the 25th of January at 10:30, and the subject there is talking about healthier plates for a healthier planet, and that's with our colleagues down at Westminster Kingsway College. And then Tracy's hosting us on the 29th of January at the Amelia White House for our Above and Beyond event. I think we are nearly sold out for that event, so if you do want to attend, please hurry up and book your tickets for that. So it's on the 29th of January at 6 o'clock. And on the same evening, we have the Institute of Hospitality Southeast Regional Committee are holding their gala and fundraising dinner from 7 o'clock at Fox Hills Country Club and Resorts. So details of all those events and many more will be available on the Institute's website under the events tab. So take a look there for the details.
Fantastic.
So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I hope you've all enjoyed the conversation today and been able to take some learning from it. And all that's left for me to say is that we wish you a lovely afternoon, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.